Where's Bill parking? Over here? Is Bill parking on this side of the building now?
No, it's just in the shop.
Oh.
They're taking the stickers off.
Oh,
He's getting rid of his
zip ties?
We'll see you mañana.
HMC Magic 95 assumes no responsibility for construction, and the Wade and Carter Show bears all responsibility.
Stamps lose the Labor Day Classic, mass shooting in Florida, the Astros pound Kikuchi, college football, and a whole lot more coming up on the Wade and Carter Show.
These things write themselves.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning to you.
How are you this morning?
I'm good. The material just writes
It
itself.
does just write
It's
itself.
just
The
so
headlines
funny.
just are there.
Astros pound Kikuchi.
They did.
Kikuchi. Sorry, I have a little bit of a lisp. Stuttering. Wade and Carter weather brought to you by our great friends at Deerland Feed. It's 78 degrees in Victoria, heading to a high today of 96,
95.
95-ish.
Look at that overnight low though. We're dipping into 70, like 71.
It's the beginning of fall. Tila and I yesterday drove over to San Marcos, and it was like you know how it gets windy when a thunderstorm is coming at you?
Yep.
It got windy like that, but the wind was like 15 degrees cooler. Like, and so, I think it was rain cooled, from up north, but it was almost like a little front. September.
It's here.
It's time.
It's here. It's
Yes,
September.
sir. By the way, I went to Deerland Feed this last week.
Did you?
Look, folks, let me tell you how accommodating those folks are down there at Deerland Feed.
Landlubber like you that knows nothing.
Well, let me tell you what I did. I went in and bought me a big 5-gallon gas can because I have my Victoria Farm Equipment 0-turn radius, lawnmower, but its nickname is Thirsty. I mean, it sucks down some juice. So I had that. I bought it looks like a NASCAR can, 5-gallon can. And then I bought a funnel because the funnel was only $1.69. The funnel looked great. I mean, it was just terrific. And so I bought this funnel. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but I needed it. It was red, covered in dust. So I bought that. And then I also bought some 21-7-14, I think is that Victoria
fertilizer
mix.
Yep.
Yeah, they loaded 50 pounds of that into the trunk. And then they tried to give me the kid that loaded it up. They were like, take it with you. And I'm like, well, if he'll get in the trunk, I'll take him. I'll make him spread that stuff when we get home.
So I love that. They load everything up for you.
Super nice people. Very, very nice, nice trip.
I went in there the other day, bought some cattle cubes, and right now is the time to get in for all your deer corn. But I hadn't even paid for the stuff, and it was already in the back of my truck.
Yeah, when I went in, they said one of the ladies said to the other, "Hey, this is the other half of that Wade and Carter group." So they knew.
They know. Yeah, they know. They listen.
Know who we
I'm
are.
glad they do.
That. Good morning, Rena.
Did you partake in the opening weekend of dove season?
No.
Special dove season, right? Isn't this the special one?
It was the 3rd through the 5th, and no, I didn't go. I gave him a break. I'm a very humane hunter. I miss a lot of what I shoot at. I go with Judge Zeller quite often, and he's mad. He's still he hunts like he needs the meat. He's chasing birds, and if I cook that kildee right, it'll be tasty. I mean, he's a hunter, carnivore.
You're like me. Yeah, if I get it, I get it. If I don't,
I'm not going to spill my lemonade over it.
I'm not going to spill my coffee.
I get my little chair set up, and I usually have a cigar, and I've got my gun everything's got to be right. I've got I have one of those ammo boxes full of shotgun shells. That way nobody knows that I shoot like 3 boxes of shells to get a limit.
That's it?
Yeah, that's if they're flying. Yeah.
I didn't see any flying this weekend.
No, they're smart. If they were smart.
Although I guess it was Saturday morning, I did hear a few gunshots in the pasture behind me, but nothing. It's weird because normally, it's an all day thing, but not this weekend. Saturday, I just heard a few shots and that was it. So I don't know.
Interesting that there's not more people out hunting.
Well, it was Labor Day and the Horns and the Aggies were both playing on Saturday, so that might have been it.
Yeah, neither team really disappointed. I thought the Aggies, of course, played Kent State, and they won by 20, 30 points they were supposed to win by. I think they covered their spread, didn't they?
As they should have.
Did they cover their spread?
I don't know, honestly.
We had talked about it. They covered, I think. I want to say the spread might have been 35. If it was, they didn't cover. But they did good. So Richard King says your mic is really hot compared to mine.
You're just not talking loud enough.
Okay, I'll work on that. That's rare that somebody says I'm not loud enough. And then the other thing, there you go. That's a little better. I don't know if it's maybe up here somewhere. I don't know. The Horns just had kind of a drama-free domination of Louisiana.
I got that one wrong.
Yeah, remember everybody thought Louisiana wasn't a bad football team. The teams that had trouble. Let's talk about number 9 Notre Dame.
This one right here, my Washington State Cougars did not look good against Utah State.
Well, Washington though got beat by
Washington got beat by Montana,
which is incredible. And then Notre Dame, who was a top 10 team, has to go to the wire versus Florida State, who isn't even ranked. I mean, they're not Bobby Bowden's not alive, folks. It's a whole different Florida
Jimbo
State.
Fisher ain't there anymore.
Gone. And then BJ Nelson likes my shirt. Thank you. This is Burlebo, is one of Dawn's favorites, and found this for me. But then Oklahoma was given all they could handle and then some from Tulane. You'll recall that the game was supposed to be at Tulane, and OU just really went bent over backwards to accommodate their little buddies. Said, y'all can have the home field, and they put the Tulane logo on their field, and then they basically tried to give Tulane the game. Ended up winning 40-35. I mean, only because Tulane did not recover.
Yeah,
an onside kick.
Trying to see how the top 25 went down.
Well, Alabama won big with no problems. And number 2 was Ohio State. I don't know what
they were number 4, I think, weren't they?
Okay, who's number 2? Oklahoma?
Oklahoma was number 2.
Clemson got beat by Georgia. They were number 3.
I don't think the rankings are out yet.
I don't know if that's really a surprise. I mean, Georgia's a good program, and for them to beat Clemson with a new quarterback early in the year, that's no big deal.
Georgia was 5. That was a 5-3 matchup. Good defensive game. Georgia kind of pulled away late. A&M wins. Should A&M move up? Clemson drops out of the top 5?
It's hard to imagine.
I mean, Georgia moves in.
Dropping out.
Does Georgia go up to number 2? Based on what I saw this weekend, in my opinion, and it's mine only, okay, I think Alabama and Georgia are the best 2 teams in college football this week.
So then who was 3rd? Who was 2? Oklahoma?
Oklahoma
drops to 5 to me.
Well, they won. Ohio State moves up
Tulane at home by 5.
Yep.
There's wins and there's wins. If you're a top 5 team, there's wins you ought to have.
But it doesn't seem the pollsters ever appear to penalize good teams for barely winning against bad teams. I don't know.
True. I wonder about so then if you go Alabama, Georgia, then who was 4th?
Well, Clemson was 3.
Uh-huh.
Ohio State was 4.
So 4 would now be Ohio State. Would move
And
up to
A&M
3,
goes up to 4.
and
No,
A&M goes to,
I don't know.
A&M goes to 5, and you just move Clemson down to 4.
OU goes to 4.
OU goes to 4.
Yeah, because Georgia moves up from 5 to 2.
Who's on first?
So,
Yeah. Well, Oklahoma definitely looked.
and Ohio State struggled against Minnesota. They pulled away late, but that game was close.
Is that right?
So, but I don't know if there's a bigger shameful loss than the University of Washington losing to Montana.
No. And Oklahoma looked beatable. That was a positive day for us. Very positive day for the
Because
Longhorns.
Washington was ranked 20th. At least my Cougs weren't ranked when they lost to Utah State.
Utah State's not terrible.
No, they weren't too bad. They got a nice little running back. I tell you who looked really good over the weekend. South Dakota State. They put-
Directional Dakota
They
State.
put it – no, just – that's the state of South Dakota.
Oh,
It's not one Dakota.
It's
and
not
it's
the
South.
Dakotas?
No. They beat Colorado State, and they got a good-looking running back as well. So,
what do you think about?
but that was actually a fun game to watch. Friday night, I think, late.
So Texas plays Arkansas this coming weekend. What do you think about it? How did Arkansas do? They win the other day.
I think they did. I have to get to my SEC
So much prep.
schedule here.
So much prep goes into this show, folks. It's very, very stressful.
Well, I got to bounce around and stuff.
Sure.
They lost. They beat Rice 38-17.
I like Texas' chances. We'll
Yeah.
see.
I think Texas wins it.
You want to do the roll call before
At
I?
Arkansas,
Yeah,
Texas
first time
wins.
they played there since I don't know, pick a number.
Texas is
04.
6.5-point favorites, so I think it's going to be close.
Yeah, it's SEC.
They don't even have a
SEC.
line on Alabama and Mercer.
Mercer. I mean, it might as well be Alabama and Mercer. They've got a better
Yeah.
chance of getting beat by a staph infection.
Marvin Mickish, good morning. Rena Scherer's in. Ricky King, Kendra Douglas, Robin Moore Knipling, Tracy Price, David Glass, good morning. Bobby Leister, Tom Price, Bobby Leister reminding us it is pre-called a Thursday.
Tuesday.
I mean, it's pre-called a Wednesday. It's Tuesday.
Yes, he said it's pre-called on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's what I meant. I don't know why I got Thursday.
Sorry, folks. I do all I can.
Yeah, he does. Patrick Strauss is still never enough.
It's not. It's,
Joe
You've been talking
Gomez,
to
good
Don.
morning.
You've been talking to Don again.
Yep. There's Don Nicole chicken in. Your
Hi,
mom is
T-Lab.
in.
Hello,
Stephen
mother.
Kidder.
Good morning,
Judge
Judge.
Posey, HR Mallory. I saw HR. He pulled up beside me the other day, scared
you
the crap
speeding?
out of me. No, I was parked waiting at the gas station for my daughter to get
I
gas.
might have thought you were a loiterer.
I was going to go. I think he might have, yep. Justin Glass in, Robert Brown, good morning.
Hello, Robert.
Diane Tippett, Lisa Poole, Amanda Smith King, Marty Stockbauer, Chris Conrad, good morning. Scott Snow, Jennifer Marr, good morning.
Hello, Jennifer.
She correctly points out you can only hunt in the afternoon for special white wing season.
That's like a Mrs. Sheriff there. She knows the rules.
James Kurth, good morning. Andy Rhea Jr., BJ Nelson's in. Diana Hawes, good morning. Clint Ives, the Iceman checking in. Adam Sugar, Sheriff Louderback, Jeremy DeDeer, Matt Boucher, Christina Wise. I think Christina Wise now checking in from Colorado. Lorena Bargenbrook, producer extraordinaire, J. Mark Jameson, Jennifer Rayburn. Good morning, everybody.
Great group of folks. We appreciate y'all listening in. Real quick, if you haven't refinanced your home yet, reach out to Terry Murray at Modern Mortgage, 541-5454. We've been telling you for months now that rates can only go up. They're not going to go any lower on 30-year money.
Nope.
So you
Working
need to reach
with
out to
Terry
her.
right now.
Yeah, if you're at 4.5%, 5%, which is not a terrible mortgage rate, she can drop your payment hundreds of dollars with the same exact, maturation date. You'll own your home, you and the government. At the
Give you an
same
idea
time.
where interest rates were 20 years ago. We bought our first home 21 years ago. And I happened to locate the paperwork for that purchase yesterday when cleaning stuff up.
It's been like 9.5, 7.
7% interest rate 21 years ago.
Yeah,
And that was considered a good deal
it was. Yep.
for a first-time home buyer in this country. So tell you what, I mean, now they're half of that's not even a good deal these days.
Adam Sugar says, "Hey, Brent, I have a Mercedes hat too." I don't know why. I'm just looking at this. It just kind of almost matched the shirt. So, which none of it matches these shorts.
No.
So I just put it on.
Hey, we're huge in Detroit. Keith Kurth checking in from Detroit.
Very nice. Thanks, Keith.
Appreciate that. Christina Wise will be checking in from Denver beginning on Thursday.
You see, James Kerr says, game warden Jennifer Marr coming in hot with some hunting regulations.
Should we continue?
Yeah, but Terry Murray, 541-5454. Reach out to her and let her lower your mortgage rate. Went services for generators, solar panels, plumbing, electrical, new, remodel, commercial construction, residential. They do it all. If you need them on an emergency basis, just call Went Services. They'll take care of you. USA Concrete Coatings. Charlie Garcia and his team can be reached at 578-HOME, HOME. Charlie will come out and put down a tough as nails polyurethane coat on your garage floor that won't peel, stick, crack, fade, won't absorb oils. Easy to clean up. You can put colors on your floor. You can turn your garage into a man cave. That's the easiest thing on the planet, folks. Charlie will come out and do it in one day. And then you can call, and for, honestly, $1,500 or less, you can have a mini split put in your garage and turn that into useful space. If nothing else, you'll have a heated and cooled garage. Great place to watch a ball game, get the kids outside in the garage. Easy to clean up, just rinse it down anytime. It's a brilliant deal. USA Concrete Coatings.
Get them outside, inside the garage.
Right, get them outside, but inside.
Yeah. And for all your car detailing needs, AJ's Detailing.
Yeah, AJ's been super busy and is really growing his business through Wade & Carter. So reach out to AJ. Go to the Facebook page for AJ's Detailing and look at the before and afters. You just haven't seen anything like it. I just stopped by mostly to harass him, but I do just stop by just to see what's in the shop. And I've been over there. There was a beautiful white Porsche in there that was like a 911 turbo
Nice.
4-wheel drive thing, just crazy car, crazy. And folks trust him with their prize.
You just like to pull up and see somebody else work hard.
Right, I can watch work for hours. Yes, hard work.
You're a fan of hard work.
Just I can watch without even interrupting.
If there was a sports team called the Hard Workers, you'd be the biggest fan.
I'd be their guy.
Cheering them on.
No doubt. Kind of overcast this morning in Victoria. I'm looking out here and I don't know, would you say it's foggy? It is kind of foggy.
Hazy maybe, yeah.
Haze. Looks like LA.
Stuart Martin, good morning. You've been watching, there was another little storm kind of expected to go into the Bay of Campeche and then move up, and now it looks like it's not going to be much and just head over towards the northwestern Gulf Coast and kind of into the armpit of Florida there.
Oh, okay.
But not going to be much. But over the weekend, they were a little bit concerned that it might be Ida 2.0.
The Bay of Campeche. I mean, did you see what Ida did like in New Jersey?
Yeah, 60 people have died, and the majority of them not where the hurricane made landfall initially, but up into the northeast where flooding took over and crazy, some of the crazy video that I saw and we may scoff. They got 5 inches of rain in one part. It just sent the banks way over where they normally go in New Jersey, but that's a lot of rain for that area in a short amount of time. They just don't get it. But water was like just pouring into the subways. That would be scary. That would be scary being in the subway tunnel.
I saw damage. Yeah, well, just a little short. I saw damage from, I guess tornadoes. It must have spun off because there were homes that it looked like it could have been New Orleans. There were homes that the siding was gone and the roof was gone. And I'm like, how did that happen in New Jersey?
27 of the deaths attributed to Ida in New Jersey alone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not COVID.
No.
They didn't blame COVID for this.
17 in New York, 5 in Pennsylvania. 13 victims in Louisiana and 2 in Mississippi as of this morning. They're saying about 95 billion in damage and economic loss, and
Wow.
still over 500,000 people in Louisiana without power. So crazy, mostly in the New Orleans area.
Yeah. So when you get your $1,500, $2,000, even $3,000 homeowners renewal, don't get too upset. $95 billion in damage that the insurance companies and the government and you as a taxpayer will end up absorbing in relation to Hurricane Ida, which is, was just kind of a meh hurricane. It wasn't even like it was.
That was Cat 4.
Was it?
I don't know how much.
Was it bigger than Harvey?
Yeah, I don't think Harvey was a 4. But for
Harvey did more damage, right?
I'm
We
not
need
sure.
to have the champion storm. I mean, we need to. I'm a little competitive.
That was called Katrina.
Yeah,
Sandy
crazy.
back in the day.
Crazy.
Jeff Finley, good morning. Stuart Martin checking in. There's J Dub.
Good morning, Jake Dub.
He was up there for Ida in Connecticut.
Jeff Finley's my industrial football buddy. We sit in the stands together. That's when I get to see him. We had made plans to get together for dinner between, everything that's going on over the summer. That just never happened.
All the plans you made and never
Yes.
followed through on.
Absolutely. I'll see you there. And one of us just didn't show.
Yeah, James Kurth reminds us Harvey parked and hung out once it got over land. That's true. Yeah, we're pretty much right in the 4-year anniversary of the aftermath of Harvey. I've been seeing all the pictures pop up on my timeline of all the rescue efforts and animal supply drives that came through the area.
I remember going down, and if you go through Rockport and you don't get on the not business 35, but you bounce out to the west and get on their loop, if you will, their bypass. It's a bypass that goes down and takes you into Gregory Portland. It's divided by 100 yards at least. It's a divided highway. So it's made, I guess, at some point to be part of an interstate corridor. In the middle, the right of way in the middle is probably 100 yards wide, maybe more. I remember that for 4 straight miles, you couldn't see the other lanes because of debris that they had purposely lined up right there. They staged it to be picked up and delivered, and trees and parts of mobile homes and
roofs and
all
siding,
kinds of stuff just for 4 miles, about 2 stories tall.
Well, there's a house I pass regularly on Airline here in town, across from the splash pad or just down from the splash pad.
It's for sale now.
They finally fixed up the back side of it that was forever covered in blue tarps, and there's a fence up there now.
There's got to be a story there, right?
Yeah.
Got to be a story.
Got to be.
But yeah, they did put a fence up, and now there's a sign out front.
I didn't see a for sale sign. So, or is that the construction
Could
company?
be a construction company. Good point.
But 4 years later, and people are still rebuilding after Harvey.
It used to be a bedroom. Now it's a sunroom. Just go onto the patio there.
Exactly.
Got a little carpet,
I
flapping.
never really liked that sunroom anyway.
Right.
Jennifer Rayburn says they started repairs finally. Wonder what the deal. Why 4 years?
I don't know. You have to wonder if it was an insurance issue or if they didn't have insurance. Maybe they didn't have a note on the house and thought, we don't need insurance.
So, I don't want to sound conspiracy theory-ish.
Right. Like we do quite often. But
mass shooting in Florida over the weekend. Crazed gunman on meth, admittedly on meth. And I'm not going to get into the background or even mention his name because I think it's irrelevant. I think it was in Lakeland, Florida, was it? Walks into a house at 4 a.m. and starts shooting people. I don't understand how people in this day and age still don't lock doors.
Maybe they're selling meth.
But, killed an infant, killed a grandma. 4 people died. One may have been just from him shooting and gone through walls and killed her. I'm not sure. I don't know that he was in that house, but I know 3 in one house for sure. And a young girl was shot 7 times, but survived and was in surgery over the weekend. Just
tragic.
Yeah. I mean, but it just, you had 2 weekends of absolutely horrible press for the Biden administration. Here comes the gun control lobby now.
Oh yeah, they seize on that. The media seizes on that to take the heat off of Joe. I did see, maybe it was The Economist. One of the magazines on the shelf the other day just said, Biden's debacle. At least the media is finally having to say this guy's a clown, which the media always understood that Joe Biden was a clown way back when. But now they called him out when he plagiarized. They called him out when he lied about his law school credentials and how he got through school on a scholarship.
Well, that was when the media was a little more credible.
Yeah, now they're just like, oh, well, at least he's not Donald Trump.
Yeah, they were credible then. Now they're complicit.
Yeah, who needs that great economy and everybody working? We don't need that. Let's
That
just
was-
get Joe Biden.
That was the tweet over the weekend. Thanks for reminding me. Joe Biden tried to take credit for the greatest economic turnaround recovery in the last 40 years is what's happened in the first half of this year, the last quarter, I think it was, or maybe the first half. I can't remember exactly the tweet, but or Facebook post. Dude, you and all your leaders shut down this country. You may not have been the one to shut certain things down, but you kind of did with some industries and those who were before you, because Donald Trump doesn't get a free pass on this one either, because I don't believe it was the right move. But the people that were in place to make recommendations that were then followed out by the state governors shut everything down. You picked winners or losers. Walmart was okay to stay open, but the little mom and pop on the corner couldn't, selling the exact same things and the same ability to social distance inside and ask people to wear masks like Walmart was doing. But no, they couldn't. So to take credit for an economic recovery that you caused the collapse of is not a victory lap, Joe Biden.
Yeah.
It's not a victory lap.
Just because we ease back towards where we were before doesn't mean that there's a victory lap involved. James Kerr says, meth does strange things to people. It's a spinoff of the CIA's LSD experiments. And good time to tell you real quick that BJ Nelson just said, hey, look, if you still have a structure, if you have something left over from Harvey, if you've got a structure on a piece of property you bought that needs to be torn down, White Trash Site Services can take care of that for you and haul it away. Literally to the point that they haul it down, and then they, if that's what you want, they put grass down for you and make it like a park. 550-1826, that's White Trash Services. Anson Arbor since 1926, Victoria's dealer, period.
Stacking them deep, selling them cheap.
Selling
Not as
cars like
deep as they
Kimball.
had in the past because chips are a problem right now.
Just down the road from higher prices.
But they still have a good selection of cars.
Yeah, Steve Kidder said that Biden's Benghazi moment is how Newsweek put it on their cover. And that's interesting because that's typically a liberal rag. And they even
Absolutely.
said, look, Benghazi moment. Razor IT Solutions, JP Hill and his team can help you with your analytics, your data, encryption, protecting your website, building a brand, coordinating Facebook and your website seamlessly coexist, how you can get funds in on a Shopify where you can bring in funds. We're going to try to do that too for the October 8 Lido Deck party at Club Westerner. Tremendous response.
Rock the yacht.
It's going to be a big party. They'll hold 750 over there at Club Westerner. We hope to have a nice crowd there. That would be awesome.
Let's pack it.
Be a great party. October the 8th, that's a Friday night, 7:30 to midnight. And I talked to Brent Manning yesterday, and the Victoria guy and is the drummer for the band, and just said, we've got a 55 song set. He goes,
Nice.
we're looking at 3.5 hours of music.
Cool.
50s, 60s, 70s, disco, R&B, some country. He said, not a bunch of not a bunch of mamas don't let your babies go to the Cowboys. He goes, we've got some more of the modern country that people like to dance to. So he said, it's going to be come with your dance
Islands
shoes
in
on.
the street.
Probably not. He said, come with your dance shoes on. The law offices of Steve Kidder, I'll be telling you over the next couple of weeks. I'm working with Steve now, gathering info for to create a formal will, with TLAT in our lives. I mean, there's things that we have to consider, and there's life insurance, and trust, and kids, and college education, and I'll give y'all some more
And
details
autopsies
later.
that need to be ordered if one
Right.
of you suddenly passes under
Right.
suspicious circumstances.
Absolutely. We all grieve differently. Why does Brent have a new Ferrari? We all grieve differently. But you'll be hearing
Helping me
more
get
about
past it
Steve
200 miles an
Kidder
hour at a time.
helping me, and then also the complete and the complete 360 is still in both locations, up north by Buffalo Wild Wings and down here at the Health Bar on Red River. But you definitely want to get used to coming to the Health Bar. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah.
They've got meats, and you can order things by the quarter, half, and pound. You can order salad, custom salads. They've got a whole menu of items, and you just check what you want, and they'll build your salad for you with, it's like pick your greens, pick your proteins, pick your this.
Pick you that.
That means pick your lettuce, pick your meat.
It's good.
It'll be good. What was some comments there, folks? What does it say?
Steve Kidder says it's like the administration taking credit for the airlift in Afghanistan. They created the fiasco that required the greatest airlift ever. Yeah. That's a problem I have right now. And I don't know who runs the social media. It's almost like Joe Biden does because of the things he tweets and puts on Facebook. But Kamala Harris was no better over the weekend. A picture from across the room of her and the president or prime minister of Thailand.
She wasn't, was she?
No.
Okay.
But they're standing at the window, looking out the window, and it's a shot from behind them, right? And she said productive meetings or whatever. And I'm like, how does a picture of you staring out a window symbolize productivity at all? Just dumb.
Yeah, she's not good. It's amazing because you just can't get past the fact that she was a United States senator, right?
Attorney General of California.
She was the Attorney General of California. And I'm
whose
telling
policies locked up more single black men than anybody else
no
before
doubt,
or since.
she was on a vendetta against Black America and called Joe Biden a racist, and now she's the VP. Can you imagine? Honestly, if we had her on the show, we would twist her into knots so quickly that she would hang up on us. She would have absolutely zero chance to defend her thoughts. She just couldn't do it. She's really, really not a very bright person.
She'd spend the whole show cackling.
Yeah, she's not.
Laughing in nervousness.
She is not a smart woman. And you're just like, wow. How did that lady become well, we know how she became Attorney General in California. That's a whole different story. But we don't know how she became a United States senator.
Because whoever was pulling the strings of the Democrat Party made their deals, sold their souls, did whatever they had to do to get everybody else to back away on Super Tuesday. I'm surprised nobody else has come at this angle. How does the number 5 contestant going into Super Tuesday convince the 4 people in front of him to drop out?
Legit point.
And become the nominee for president, and his running mate is the first one to drop out of the Democratic nomination process,
and
this is her ticket.
80 million votes.
Yeah.
I want you to think about that. The Democrats were heading into Super Tuesday. Joe Biden was number 4 in the polls.
5 in some polls.
And Kamala had already been kicked off the island in the first debate.
She didn't even have enough support to get to the first debate.
And then, poof, they win with 80 million votes.
Just unbelievable.
Yep.
Coup in Guinea, Equatorial Guinea.
Dwayne Payne says she made it from the cat house to the White House. She did something. That's a true statement. That's right. Christina Wise says she slept her way up. True story.
No, she's
Hard to argue.
No, she managed to get where she did. Don't get me wrong.
She's a player.
But I'm curious to know the backstory, the promises, the
Side deals.
Side
Where did
deals.
Bernie Sanders go? Why do we not hear from
the
Bernie?
threats.
Right. Why do we not hear from Bernie? Same thing. Right. Where is he? Where's Bernie? He was so vocal. Right. I'm from Vermont. Where'd he go?
Nowhere.
No, you don't hear anything from him.
No, exactly. He's more cognizant and coherent than our president, and we don't hear anything from Bernie
That's
because they
interesting.
paid him to shut up.
Why would it, if you were Bernie Sanders and you weren't paid to go away, why wouldn't you have some indignation? Why wouldn't you say, they took it from me the first time and then they gave it to this dope? Why wouldn't you be screaming from, you're a senior member of the Senate. Why
Well,
wouldn't you be screaming from the rafters?
Did his issues and everything he stood for all of a sudden disappear? No.
Everything he cared about.
Well, but you look at some of it though. His blatant communism, they're pushing for it. So he won on that regard, right? The Dems have gone so far to the communist slash socialist side. Bernie has to be happy. It may not quite be far enough for the Marxist that's Bernie Sanders, but it's a whole hell of a lot closer than it was when he was standing up there trying to become the presidential nominee.
Yeah. Look at that. Jennifer Rose says he's been on full COVID lockdown. He's quite senior in the Senate. No kidding.
Steve Kidder says $3.5 trillion in social programs. Sanders is getting exactly what he wanted.
Is it not scary to people? Do you feel like it's an overreaction when people like us say that the Democrats are gliding gleefully towards communism? Is that an over? Are we over analyzing it? Are we really heading towards communism?
Well, it won't happen overnight, but the more and more government gets involved in taking over certain aspects that have been either individual rights or states' rights. I mean, the John Lewis Voting Rights Bill, for one. Constitutionally, elections are state run and ruled by the states, right? Governed by the states. This bill would circumvent that with my limited knowledge of the Constitution, just on the surface. The federal government getting involved in elections.
Well, it kind of brings you back around to what Dwayne Stovall told us, that it used to be that we were independent states. And although people are very different by state, that they were all independent states. Now states are more like counties and the government's more like the state. In practice, the way the federal government administers its will upon us is very similar to the way the state of Texas implements its will on individual counties, which is interesting that
fair analogy,
that Texas doesn't stand up and say, we're not going to take it. We're not going to take it. I think it'd be interesting if we did.
Stuart Martin, probably a good point. They've always cheated and put whoever they want in place. This time they just got sloppy with it.
Probably a lot of truth in that. You look back at
Jimmy Carter.
Or go back to John F. Kennedy. I mean, without organized labor's vote, Kennedy doesn't get into the White House. Interesting. And you go back.
Yeah, a lot have been done on that, and that was the first televised debate. And Richard Nixon looked slovenly and unshaven.
Did. What if, how would things have been different had Richard Nixon won that race in 1960? First of all, you would not have had Watergate, because he would have served his 2 terms and been gone.
Yeah, no,
you wouldn't have had Watergate. You wouldn't have had the assassination of an American president. Well, you might have, but you wouldn't have had John F. Kennedy shot on the streets of Dallas. You would not have had probably the Bay of Pigs. You probably would not have had the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Well, Bay of Pigs might have happened anyway.
Could have.
Let's not forget the CIA was in a lot more control And maybe they still are, but they sure seem to run a whole lot more covertly than they do now, even on American soil.
Well, J. Edgar Hoover was amazing in his demand, his control of power. I mean, he had a file on everybody.
Yeah.
From Elvis to Bobby Kennedy.
Those what ifs would make for an interesting TV show. But,
Yeah, wouldn't that be? That would be.
But
something.
hard to even imagine.
There was a show called The Man in the High Castle. Kind of had some supernatural stuff to it, but
Yeah.
But it was based on the idea that Germany won World War II. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. To see American Nazis and their, everything their administration. What struck me was everything about them was about governmental control. The military was very, very visible. In a post World War II German or Nazi run world.
I heard somebody explain how this country has shifted from one that really valued and championed individuals and individual liberty to the point where we are now, where government knows best for everyone.
Right. I agree.
It's kind of where we are. Scott Tomko says that he feels there'd be more uprisings before we turn socialist or communist.
I think so. Peter McNally sums it up accurately. He says Dems just wanted anyone but Trump. Simple as that. I wonder, Peter, I'm going to assume you didn't vote for Donald Trump, and that's fine. I just wonder how many of those intelligent, informed Democrats, such as yourself, look back and go, I don't guess Trump was that bad. I mean, I'd rather have a president who every now and then sends out an ill-advised tweet than a president that falls asleep during a cabinet meeting. I personally, I'd rather have a guy that only gets 4 hours of sleep in the form of Donald Trump than a guy that only works 4 hours a day in the form of Joe Biden.
True story.
Very interesting that he's. I just don't know. Nobody comes up to me and says, I voted for Biden and I'd do it again, first of all. And number two, I can't imagine anybody who's objective about political performance could be pleased with Joe Biden. Oh, he's doing a great job. Are you kidding me? I mean, he inherited this from Trump and he inherited that. And it's not his fault what happened in, it's not his fault what happened over there in Afghanistan. And North Korea's always been a loose cannon. And the Chinese have always done war games off our coast. And come on. And same thing with Trump as president. I haven't heard that. Because usually even the emotional don't just spew ignorance for long periods of time. Only we do that here on this show.
And speaking of the Chinese and doing what they do, they just I guess Sunday reports were that they flew like 12.5 airplanes into Taiwan airspace,
nuclear
jet fighters,
bombers.
Yeah,
in a war game exercise. Imagine that. Imagine if you're Taiwan and they fly over your airspace and they're beyond. They are beyond a superpower to you. You are helpless to do anything against them. You can't shoot down a Chinese fighter plane. If they want to do a exercise for war games over your airspace, you're just susceptible to it.
And the other thing they've done is they've now started to claim what have been traditionally international waters in the South China Sea and some other bodies of water around China, and the world is just sitting there going, okay, you can do it. Nobody will stand up to the Chinese Communist Party and they knew this was the case when nobody called them out for what happened with COVID.
Inconclusive
reports. Two investigations now have pretty much come to the same inconclusive conclusion.
Peter McNally says Trump was watching ESPN during some high-level cabinet meetings. He says read Bolton's book. Well, maybe what Trump did a pretty good job of is putting good people in place and staying out of the way. Now, I agree.
Now he put some crappy people in place like John Bolton
Yeah,
and a few others.
people trying to make a buck off of knowing him.
My complaint with Donald Trump was he never drained the swamp like he said he was going to.
Fair enough.
And that's what hurt him. It's what came back to bite him in the rear end, because you had guys like Mitch McConnell who would tell you one thing and then work behind his back, behind Trump's back.
McConnell's terrible.
Yeah, he needs to go.
He does need to go. Let's hook him up to Allen's Wrecker Service, 578-6300.
I'd love to see them tow him
Let
out
them
of
just
DC.
tow him right out of DC. Tow him out of DC. They are your go-to tow-to. If you have a problem, if you need somebody to come and pick up your vehicle and take it where it needs to go. In fact, if you need a vehicle delivered, say from here to Refugio for a job, they'll put it on a flatbed and haul it down there for you. They have a depot there as well. So Allen's Wrecker Service, 578-6300. The VCS companies are our banner sponsor. They are the modicum of success when it comes to quality in our community. Whether you need surround sound, surveillance, security, fire suppression at a restaurant, if you need fire extinguisher service, if you need, I just made that up, but I think it's true. If you need a phone, if you need a two-way radio, if you need anything to do with communications in your business, reach out to the VCS.
If it talks, squawks, monitors, they've got it all.
Absolutely. Chesnick Furniture, Bobby Leon and his family, coming off a huge Labor Day weekend sale, still have best recliners, bedding, Tempur-Pedic bedding, all types of
accoutrement.
Reach out to Chesnick. For over 100 years in downtown Victoria, Bobby Leon and his family have been serving you and yours, and they say you just do better at Chesnick. Ash and I coined the phrase, Chesnick and Love make your house a home. And Veracruz back open today. Get to
Pre-Caldo Wednesday.
Absolutely. Get to Veracruz and enjoy. Oh, you can't have caldo, but you can have a drowning enchilada.
Yeah, you can have something
taco
set you up for
salad,
some good caldo tomorrow.
Mexican plate, unbelievable.
Is it Matt Damon's new movie that the Chinese complain so loudly about it being something to do with China, that they moved the movie over to film in Spain and Portugal, changed the character
because it was too Chinese. They were picking on Chinese.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what, but something had to do with China, and they didn't like the movie or something, or didn't like what was going on. So at least Matt Damon didn't kowtow to him and acquiesce. Said, all right, you don't like it, we won't come film it in China. We'll change the movie and we'll make the protagonist a Spanish basketball player. It's like, I think it's like it's like an NBA version of, what was the Cuba Gooding Jr., Tom Cruise, Show Me the Money.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Really?
Yeah. But basketball.
McGuire.
Jerry Maguire. Yeah.
Are we...
Something ticked off the Chinese, and at least I think Matt Damon said, we'll just move it over here instead.
Am I erring in saying that in stereotype, which everything happens, in stereotype, that the Chinese are not known necessarily as the best and brightest of the Asian world, right? And the Japanese and some of India is technically part of
government-wise, you mean? With
as far as I don't understand why, as Americans, we would ever. I mean, I just don't see myself ever taking a back seat to any Chinese guy that comes in. It's like, well, I'm from China. Like, that's going to impress me. That's not going to impress me. You come in and say you're from, I don't know,
Canada, that would impress me.
Or you come in and you've overcome, you're from Rwanda, or you've done something. I might actually be a fan, but the sheeple that are pushed around by the government for generations, the people that believe that their premier is a god, these people.
Well, that's North Korea.
I thought they had Mao Zedong. Wasn't he like their god over there in China?
Yeah, he's revered like
Come
like
on,
like
man.
Lenin was and Stalin was.
Come
They're
on.
communists. It's what they do.
course,
They
don't forget that-
propagandize.
Lenin or Stalin, I guess, one of them said that, religion is an opiate of the people. Religion is just a way that the people placate themselves, that there is no God. That is one of the fundamental foundations of communism, is that there's no God. The government is your God.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Which is why they persecute Christians, Muslims, anybody who does not or who openly
Yeah.
worships any god. And the world just stands by and says, "Okay, go ahead and do it."
See that Dwayne Payne says they own all the poultry and swine plants, and now the largest farm in the USA that China owns. Interesting. I mean, we're heading towards a position, folks, where
I don't know if they own all the poultry and swine, but they do have a good chunk of it. I do. I believe.
But to hang, when you have a group of people that you don't trust, how does the FDA deal with China making all the bacon? I mean, what if they just decided to poison us all? I mean, I'm just saying, I don't trust them at all.
No, because their government's involved in any business that leaves the
Right.
borders of China.
So why wouldn't we? I mean, I think we're heading towards a time.
Remember when we
have to
got
stand
mad
up to
as
them.
a country because Japan, who was our ally in the 80s, was buying up things like Pebble Beach.
Yeah.
Remember?
just
We put laws in place to keep the Japanese from buying up the country. This wasn't a communist country coming in here and buying up
It was an ally.
property, assets. This was an ally.
Now
We're allowing the Chinese Communist Party to come in here and buy up everything, and nobody says a word.
no,
You had local, state, and federal governments taking action against Japanese investment in the 80s and 90s in this country. Their economy was booming so hard, so fast, they were trying to find places to park cash. And they were doing it in the US, particularly along the West Coast and the East Coast.
because they could get there. Now you've got a sworn enemy of the country, an enemy who openly hates our way of life, and we're becoming more and more beholden to them.
Have written entire books on how to take over the US and how bad we are. And have openly wondered in all their documents that have been leaked about how to take over the US, biological warfare was one of those tactics.
It is interesting that I used to.
But look where they've gone into. They've gone into the heartland. They're not buying up all the places on the East Coast and West Coast like Japan did. They're buying up our farmland in the middle of the country.
And don't know if they're doing it for export or to control what we have access to. It is interesting to me to walk into stores and see shortages. It's interesting to go to car dealerships or like right over here at like Sheer Kubota, and inventories are way down and availability is very limited. And you think this only happens in foreign countries. This doesn't happen here. The grocery store that we just take for granted, the ability to walk into a Dick's or an H-E-B Plus and at all times of the year go get tomatoes and cucumbers and all of that. They source globally. There are many, many places that simply does not exist. It just doesn't exist.
Particularly in communist and socialist countries where run by dictators.
Yeah, James curses. I wish they'd hurry up and fire up the Red Dawn while I'm still young enough to fight. I do. I can't help but think that at some point it won't be Biden. He's way too gutless and unalert. But I think that it's not going to be long until somebody's going to really, really drop some heavy sanctions on China and say, we're not playing your games anymore.
I don't know who it's going to be.
I don't know.
It's not going to be anybody in Africa because they're selling their souls to the Chinese Communist Party in Africa. It won't be anybody in Afghanistan.
Where are you going to put all these lithium batteries, Ash, when they're done with their electric car joke?
I don't know. It won't be Russia. I don't know who it's going to be. Remember when the left was deflecting and saying that Donald Trump was getting us closer. Remember when the doomsday clock ticked closer to the end of the world because Donald Trump was president? You have China flying unprovoked and unresponded to in Taiwanese airspace. They are provoking the world for a response, and nobody's going to do anything.
And nobody says anything.
Nope.
There was a time that the United States would have said, you can't do that. Those are free people. You can't fly bombers over them. We're going to go fly our bombers across your coast.
We are closer to World War III with a Joe Biden administration than we ever were.
Yes.
Under a Trump administration.
Peace through strength is one thing, but don't forget, so is defeat through weakness.
Speaking of weakness, reports now that the Taliban have about 1,200 evacuees that are at an airport in Afghanistan ready to be flown to the U.S. And I don't know if these are Afghanis or Americans or a mix of both. 1,200, up to 1,200 cleared evacuees. So these are people that somehow were vetted and ready to come to the U.S. And the Taliban is now blocking their flights out of this airport, holding them for ransom. This makes the Iranian hostage situation under Jimmy Carter and the early days of Ronald Reagan's administration look like an absolute Tea Party.
Well, the difference is, Reagan had negotiated the freedom of the hostages before he was sworn in and said, wait for it. Why does Janelle say, I swear I'm buying a horse that will bite everyone? I don't know what that means. Jim Simpson says, on a lighter note, there was some great college football this weekend. Jim, on a lighter note, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah. Tune in, sir.
Yeah, but by the way, all 3 local high schools get a win, so good job. That'd be East, West, and St. Joe, so fantastic.
What about Faith and their 6-man team?
I don't know. Maybe it was West, St. Joe, and Faith. I don't know.
Where were you going with the Ronald Reagan?
Well, Reagan had negotiated. He had people behind the scenes negotiating the release of the hostages so that he could make that announcement after he was sworn in, like he wanted to reinforce. And I'm sure that was a pay-for-play deal where the U.S. said, we're going to send you some aid if you let us announce after the inauguration that we're, getting our.
And then that didn't happen in Canada, and their ambassador Ken Taylor had to come to the rescue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fake passports and they turned them into Canadians.
That's a great movie, by the way. What is who's in that movie? Ben Affleck?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's a good movie. It's one you should watch of the hostages getting out of Tehran. It really, really a good movie.
Yeah.
What does Caleb Shaw say? Because it's always good.
Media cycle has already moved on. Biden was just smarter than the rest of us on Afghanistan. Now they have to focus on Texas abortion. That's the real war that needs to be won by the Dems.
Right.
Yeah.
But, you look back and over the weekend, we watched, I had seen part of it, but Dawn and I watched Bohemian Rhapsody, about Freddie Mercury. Actually, a great movie. It's a weird subject matter. Freddie wasn't the most normal guy.
No.
But it just brought to the front just what a huge thing AIDS was just 15 years ago. We just don't hear about it anymore. I'm not so sure that there have been huge strides made in the treatment of the autoimmune, whatever it is.
HIV?
HIV. No. I'm not sure.
No, that's where the treatment has made the progress, is it's stopping HIV from becoming full-blown AIDS.
So if that's the case, bully for that. But it's almost like the American attention span is worse than mine. It's like it's gone. Squirrel. It's like they can't focus on anything for very long. I'm fairly sure that after one more year, no matter if COVID numbers remain high, you just won't hear about COVID anymore. I just don't think you will.
Well, they're already moving on to the next variant, the Mu variant. You hear this one?
Mu?
Yeah, because
Cal's got it now?
Because the MU. Delta Mu, wasn't that a bad sorority in one of those movies from the 80s?
Right. They have to use the Greek alphabet.
But the Delta variant hasn't, even though it's more contagious, hasn't turned out to be as deadly as the last spike. And even these numbers didn't get up near. You look at the 7-day moving average for the country and most states, these numbers are nowhere near where they were last spring.
So what do we do? And,
Move on to the move.
we move on to the move.
We're going to move on.
Yeah, folks, we're going to get out today. It's Tuesday. Thank you for pulling us through a Tuesday. It's not always our best news day. We really appreciate your support. All of our sponsors are fantastic. Anytime you have a chance to use one of our sponsors,
Please.
And you choose to say, "Hey, Wade and Carter sent me," trust me, it gets back to us, and it is a
They might
powerful
laugh at
message.
you.
It's a
Uncontrollable.
powerful message. I wish you'd tell them what the Wade and Carter special. It matters. And stay tuned and listen to the Hall of Famer, Ralph Salazar, and Brother Gary Moses, as they will be coming in like now. We're going to get out. You folks have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow on Caldo Wednesday.
Bye, folks.